Ethan Woods wasn't supposed to be home this early. The meeting had been cancelled. Something about a client backing out last minute. Normally that would have annoyed him. But today it felt like fate. Because for the first time in weeks, he'd get to surprise his little girl. Lily loved vanilla ice cream with rainbow sprinkles. It was their thing, or at least it used to be. Back when her mother was still alive. Back when laughter filled the house instead of silence. Ethan pushed open the door of their sprawling estate, the keys jingling in his hand. No cartoons blaring. No tiny footsteps running to greet him. Just quiet. And then, sound. Not laughter. Not music. Crying. Faint, muffled, like someone trying not to be heard. His stomach dropped. He followed the sound to the kitchen, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. And then he froze. There she was, his little girl. 6 years old, standing on her tiptoes, struggling to push a mop twice her size across the floor. Her jeans were ripped at the knees. Her shirt was too tight, stained with something dark. And her arms. Red marks, bruises, some fresh, some fading. One of her eyes was slightly swollen. Lily! She whipped around, her face streaked with dirt and tears. The mop clattered to the floor. She tried to hide her arms behind her back, but it was too late. He had already seen. "Baby," he whispered, dropping to his knees. "What happened?" Lily's lip trembled. She looked at the floor. "Miss Margaret," she whispered. "She says I'm too slow." Ethan's hand shook. He reached for her arm, gently turning it over. The bruises were everywhere. "She says if I don't work, she'll send me away like Mommy." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. His little girl thought she had to earn her place in her own home. And then, the step. Margaret walked in carrying a laundry basket. She barely blinked when she saw him. "You're home early," she said, her voice light, as if nothing was wrong. Ethan stood slowly, holding Lily against him. His voice was low. "Dangerous. What did you do to my daughter?" Margaret sighed, setting the basket down. "Mr. Carter, children need discipline. She's been acting out. She's 6. Margaret's face hardened. "I raised 3 boys before this job. You wanted her kept in line while you were off playing CEO. I did what you weren't here to do." Lily flinched in his arms. Something inside Ethan snapped. "Pack your things," he growled. "Now, before I call the police." Margaret scoffed. "You're going to ruin my reputation over a few swats? Do you know how many families beg for a nanny like me?" "Then they can have you," Ethan said, his voice shaking with rage. "Because this is the last time you'll ever come near my daughter." For a second, Margaret looked like she wanted to argue. But something in Ethan's eyes must have warned her. This wasn't a man she could bully anymore. She turned and walked out. And just like that she was gone. Ethan stood there, holding Lily tight, his heart pounding. All the money, power, the success. None of it had protected his little girl. And the worst part, he hadn't even noticed. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of Lily's bed, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest as she slept. Her tiny fingers curled around his thumb, like she was afraid he'd disappear if she let go. The bruises on her arms stood out in the dim light, ugly purple reminders of his failure. How long had this been going on? How many times had she cried when he wasn't there to hear it? His stomach twisted. He had trusted Margaret. Sophia had trusted her. And all this time, while he was buried in meetings and contracts and business deals, his little girl had been suffering. Morning came too soon. Lily ate her breakfast in silence, her shoulders hunched, a blanket wrapped tightly around her like armor. She didn't ask for pancakes shaped like hearts like she used to. She didn't giggle when the cereal crackled in the milk. She just existed. Quiet. Broken. Ethan's hands clenched around his coffee mug. This wasn't just about firing Margaret. This was about justice. His first call was to his lawyer. His second, to a private investigator, not the kind who dug up corporate scandals but the kind who specialized in cases like this. The kind who knew how to find the monsters hiding behind polished resumes. 2 days later, a file landed on Ethan's desk. And what he read made his blood run cold. Margaret wasn't her real name. Vanessa Griggs. That was who she really was. A woman with a history of moving from state to state, changing her last name, leaving behind a trail of broken families. A dismissed negligence case in Colorado. A family who swore she'd emotionally destroyed their children. School records of kids withdrawn mid-year, traumatized, terrified. All of it buried. All of it ignored. Because people like Margaret knew how to play the system. Knew how to smile for the cameras, charm the parents, and then break the children when no one was watching. And Ethan. He had handed her his daughter. The police moved fast once they had the evidence. Margaret was arrested before noon. Ethan stood on the porch as they led her away in handcuffs. She didn't look so confident now. No smirk. No excuses. Just the pale, trembling face of a woman who knew her game was over. But it wasn't enough. Because Lily still flinched at loud noises. Still hid her arms when someone reached for her. Still whispered, "Is she coming back?" in the dead of night. And Ethan. He had one job now. Make sure his daughter never had to be afraid again. Ethan woke up to tiny fingers poking his cheek. "Dad. Dad." He blinked open his eyes to find Lily hovering over him. Her wild curls blocking the morning sun like a tiny, impatient eclipse. "Pancakes," she announced. "The dinosaur ones. With chocolate chips this time." 6 months ago, she wouldn't have dared to wake him. 6 months ago, she barely spoke above a whisper. Now she was crawling across his chest like a determined kitten, demanding breakfast with syrup-stained conviction. Therapy had been awkward at first. Lily's psychologist used puppets, a giraffe named Gerald and a very serious turtle named Dr. Shelley. Ethan had sat in the corner during those early sessions, watching his daughter whisper to stuffed animals about things that made his hands shake with rage. "Gerald says grown-ups aren't supposed to make kids cry on purpose. Dr. Shelley thinks maybe my dad works too much." Ethan started canceling meetings. The grocery store incident became family legend. Lily had been reaching for cereal when a woman turned the corner. Same blonde bob as Margaret. For one terrible second, Ethan watched his daughter freeze, her small body bracing for impact. Then he did something reckless. He grabbed the nearest box, Frosted Flakes, Tony the tiger grinning madly, and plopped it on his head. "Roar," he said very seriously. "I'm a cereal monster." Lily's shocked giggle echoed through aisle 5. The blonde woman hurried away. The stock boy gave them a thumbs up. That night, they ate Frosted Flakes for dinner. Spring came softly. They sat on their usual bench, the one near the duck pond where Lily's mother used to take her. The one they'd avoided for 2 years. Lily swung her legs, watching sunlight dance on water. "Dad." "Yeah, bug. I think Mom would like you now." The words hit him square in the chest. He'd been CEO of the year. Had a penthouse in Manhattan. A black card with no limit. But this version of him, the one who knew how to braid hair badly, the one who kept fruit snacks in his briefcase, this was the man his wife would have been proud of. The morning Lily's final yellowing bruise faded. Ethan took a picture. Not of the mark, but of her grinning face, smeared with blueberry pancake syrup. "Cheese!" she shouted, waving sticky fingers. Later, he'd paste it beside the other photos on his office wall. Lily riding a carousel, Lily covered in finger paint, Lily asleep on his chest during a business call he'd taken from the playground. The most important deal of his life hadn't been closed in a boardroom. It had been sealed with syrup and a 6-year-old's forgiveness. On the first day of 2nd grade, Lily ran ahead with her friends, then doubled back. "You're coming to the bake sale, right?" Ethan adjusted her backpack straps. "Wouldn't miss it. Promise." He kissed her forehead. "Not just promise. Pinky promise." She linked her tiny finger with his, then dashed off, her laughter trailing behind her like a kite string. And Ethan Woods, millionaire, former workaholic, recovering perfectionist, stood on the sidewalk with frosting on his tie and the world's stickiest pinky finger, finally understanding real wealth. Thank you for following Ethan and Lily's journey. If this story resonated with you, consider leaving a comment about which moment touched you most. For more heartfelt tales about second chances and the messy beauty of family, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, may your pancakes always be fluffy and your pinky promises strong.